Hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Saturday 10 a.m. Technique Live, not going live, at the School Days Online Crop, and we are going to jump right in because I know you're not watching. You can't comment at the moment, but I hope that you get a chance to watch soon. We are going to be creating a layout using the Halloween special that is available right now. It's called Fabulous, but we are going to be making a non-Halloween layout. So I'm starting with a base page 12 by 12 of the peach cardstock, and I'm using the light side. All of our cardstock is double-sided, meaning that it's got a true color side and a lighter side. So I'm using the lighter side of the peach cardstock. And I want to start off right away by doing a little bit of stenciling. So I've got here the card front stencil pack number 2. And these card front stencils, you can actually purchase them as a bundle, which is lovely. And so in here, there's a couple different stencils. There's probably you can't see very well. There's one that is a grid of squares, there's one that's a floral, and then there's this one that has 3 different patterns. It's got little ticks, it's got dots, and it's got hearts. And I'm going to be using the heart pattern today. So let me just scooch these out of the way. And you would think, well, that's kind of silly, using a card front stencil on, on a layout. You know, that just seems a little bit odd. But trust me, it will do something cool. So I'm going to grab one of my blending brushes, and I'm also going to grab my ink that is way over here, long reach, and let me see, right here, I'm going to be using the Papaya Ink. Now, papaya is not a color in this collection. The paprika is a color and the melon is a color, but not papaya. But it's as close as I'm going to get because I don't have those other 2 colors. And you could also use black for this, but I want it to be a little bit subtle. So what I'm going to do, sorry, I got the wrong brush. Let me just grab the correct one. There we go. I love our new blending brushes, and you just need one for like every color family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start first by stenciling this row of hearts up here at the top of my page, okay? So I'm going to kind of overlap the stencil a little bit so it goes off the edge, so it looks like it's added on, but not, you know, not plunked right in the middle. And so I'm just going to hold it here with my fingers because, you know, life's too short to tape everything down. And I'm just going to blend the ink through the stencil, creating a nice little pattern. And it doesn't have to be even. I don't have to hit every single heart. They don't have to all be the same color. And then when I get here, I'm going to need to pick it up and move it because I'm going all the way halfway across. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap and line up, because this is a nice even pattern, I'm going to line up the hearts against the ones that have already been stenciled and just continue on across like that. Just adding a nice little tiny bit of hearts just at the top. And then I'm also going to repeat the same thing down here at the bottom in the opposite corner. So I'm going to overlap the side of my page. Now, you might want to use a messy mat behind this, but I'm not going to get too vicious with it, so I'm not going to worry about the edge of my Versamat. If I worried, I could take a cloth and just wipe it off. You know, it's not too hard to clean that off. And then I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to move it along because, again, I want to get to that 6-inch center line. So just overlay on top of the hearts that have already been stenciled. That's the great thing about a stencil that is an even pattern. If it's uneven, then you just take your chances, right? You can line it up however you want and hopefully get the look that you're looking for, and you don't have to worry. There we go. So we've got some pretty little hearts going there at the top and bottom. Now, one thing I had thought about doing, that's really fun to do with a stencil, but I decided against it. I don't know. I just didn't feel it this morning. Is if you take your Versamark ink and lay your stencil down and squish your Versamark ink into it, then you can do some like clear heat embossing and make it look like it's UV coated, all that kind of fun stuff. But I decided to just go with ink for today. But it's nice to be able to move that stencil along and create whatever length you want. I could have gone all the way across, but that's not going to work with the layout that I'm doing. Have you ever heard of a 654 layout? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the 3-2-1 layout, and that's where you do something that's 3 inches, then 2 inches, then 1 inch to make strips or even vertical strips on your page. Well, this is going to be a 654 layout, and that is because the first piece that we're going to add is a 6x6 piece, and this is from that fabulous collection, this gorgeous black and white polka dot. And I thought this was nice because this is a nice small size polka dot, but it's just maybe a smidge larger than my little hearts that are going here. But it kind of has that same feel of, things being lined up. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this right in the corner of my peach cardstock. So now we've created a quarter of our page with that beautiful polka dots, but what we want to do is we want to do it at the other side too. So this is another 6x6. So on our tic-tac-toe board, there's something called 4 square, and you do 4 squares or divide something into 4. So here is an idea that you could use for that 4 square, because now you can see by adding those 2 6x6 squares on there, we've created 4 squares. And just with a little bit of stenciling, we have differentiated, between the patterns and the cardstock, but it's not just plain cardstock. So that's a lovely little sort of addition to the layout. And then we've got our 5. Now we need to jump to our 4. And so for that, I've got the back side of the polka dot is this gorgeous melon stripe that's happening here. And so this is 5-inch square. Let me just double check that. Yes, 5-inch square. And I've gone ahead and put my adhesive on the back. And so what we're going to do with this is we're going to layer it right on top of that polka dot. Just center it right in the center. It will leave a nice little 1/2-inch border all the way around the edge. And there we go. So there is our first number 5. And then we're going to repeat the same thing over here. When you're doing something with quadrants like this, it's nice to have repeated designs, and because it really kind of, even though we're making like separate spaces, we're keeping it cohesive, right? The other thing is when you're using a stripe, it's nice to have your diagonal stripe going from lower left to upper right, because most people read things, even if it's not text, from left to right. And if your stripe is going down, it's kind of like, oh, but when it's going up, you're like, oh, it's kind of like an uplifting thing. But now we need to do a little bit of treatment in these other quadrants. So we have another 5 piece, and that is this really fun, is it Seabrook? Yes, Seabrook colored pattern, and it's like little circles and little stars. The back side of it is definitely leaning towards Halloween, right? We've got pumpkins and candy corn and things happening. But the back side that is just that Seabrook pattern does not have to say Halloween. So you can see how already, just by using the opposite side of the page, we've taken this collection from Halloween to everyday. It's just an everyday pattern kind of thing, right? Polka dots and stripes and little circles and stars, and we're going to repeat the same thing in the upper left. Again, these are the 5-inch squares. So we started with 6, then we went to 5. So this is our 5. And let's see if we can get it lined up. The T-square rulers that we have all been anticipating arriving have arrived. And so if you've been waiting to purchase one of those T-square rulers from that Nucor catalog, yay, they're here. Now, I'm going to start breaking up my quadrants a little bit. And to do that, I've got this fun zip strip. It's carrying in the little circles from this Seabrook. It's got all the lovely colors, but again, it's not reading as Halloween. And I think that's fun when there are sort of seasonal items that are available, but that have the alternate patterns on them. Because you know what? Maybe, yeah, okay, you want to scrapbook something that's Halloween, but you don't have, enough Halloween photos in any given time to do, 5 double layouts. You maybe want to do 1, maybe 2. And so this gives you the option of doing that, and still getting the paper pack that, because it's really cute Halloween. Oh my goodness, this is such a sweet Halloween collection. And so I've taken my 1 zip strip and I've cut it in half at the 6-inch line. This is actually a really great layout for conserving paper, right? Because you're using every bit. So we cut 6-inch and 6-inch. So it's 1 zip strip cut in half. And I lined it up at about 1 inch from the edge on both. But I did top and bottom rather than both bottom or both top. So to make it a little bit symmetrical / asymmetrical, it's not exactly a mirror, right? It's a bit of a translation, I guess, if you want to go with the math class version of it. But then we also want to add in some photos. And oh my goodness, I have the cutest photos and they just work so well with this paper pack and these alternate patterns. And this is my daughter, and she was enjoying some cotton candy. I ordered some cotton candy from a friend of hers who was having a fundraiser at their school. And so we got her a container of unicorn cotton candy. And so the one day she was sitting at the table and she had her little stuffy with her. And isn't it so cute? And just like the perfect colors. And she was eating her cotton candy. And, she's probably not going to be happy at me for showing these pictures, but that's what children have to put up with. And look, she was, feeding it to her stuffy, and she likes to play, but I thought it was so cute because this little guy has his tongue sticking out, and in this photo, she's got her tongue sticking out in the exact same way. So I thought it was just so sweet. So I'm going to add these photos on here, and I have matted them with ballerina glitter paper. Because, you have to have a little sparkle. This is when she was 11, so, you need to have a little bit of sparkle. Not too much, just a smidge. And so this is our 4. Our photos are cut to 4 inches. Well, just slightly under 4 inches. So we've got our 6, 5, 4. And that just creates such a fun layering effect. And it's just beautiful. And I like that we even added that extra layer with the matting and adding that little bit of sparkle in because, it's unicorn cotton candy. We can't not have some sparkle. And I'm sure Julia would agree with me on that. All right, so let's add this photo up here in this corner. And one thing I was thinking about as I was thinking about the arrangement of the photos is that Julia's kind of facing off this way. It doesn't really matter which way the stuffy's looking, but he's kind of looking towards. So I didn't want to put her picture up here kind of looking off into nothing, right? Whereas this way, she's kind of facing the other side of this single page layout. And of course, I could then turn this into a double page layout. It doesn't have to stay a single page, right? Okay, so I'm going to line this guy up, and I'm going to move him down. He's actually a little bit smaller. Let me just double check the measurement. It's about 3.5 inches for this guy. And that's okay. You can make things a little bit smaller and, you know, kind of play up the differences. So I'm going to just scooch this guy down to the bottom. So it's about the same amount of border as the other ones. And then over in this corner, I decided to use the ballerina glitter paper again, but I wanted to add a little bit of a variation because even though we're doing a lot of the same, you know, with our 654, it's nice to bring in a little bit of variation. So I took my ballerina glitter paper and I took the stitched square frames and I cut out this center stitched frame. So we've just got a little bit of a frame of the glitter paper, and that's really nice because all the other ones do look like they're just in a little frame. So this one gets to have its own little frame moment. And because I'm not putting a photo on this one, but I wanted to kind of keep up that look of the glitter frame. So let's add some adhesive on the back of this. Now, when I was adding my photos onto my glitter paper, I did it already ahead of time. And that's because when my printer prints out my photos, there's a little bit of a bow in them. And if you have worked with glitter paper before, you know that glitter paper, it doesn't really play well with things sometimes. You have to use liquid glue to attach stuff to glitter paper. Even glue dots don't really work. And so when you're adding something that's kind of bowed, you kind of have to squish it down. So I had it underneath a big stamp block to make sure everything laid down flat and got nice and glued with the liquid glue. So you need to take that into consideration when you're using glitter paper. Then I took the back side of this. Remember I said it had all those nice little icons? So I went and I actually fussy cut out a few of them. And even though these are meant as Halloween icons, I thought, you know what? They kind of look cute. They're like little framed items. And then there was also this little candelabra. And I thought, you know what? We can make a nice little scene over here in this extra little space, because sometimes you just need a little embellishment cluster. So I cut out this little kitty cat. So I'm just going to set it on here like it's sitting on a little shelf. So we've got a little shelf, we've got a little frame, and then we've got our little kitty cat that's sitting on there like that. And then I've got this little candelabra, so cute. I'm going to glue this one down with the liquid glue. And I love fussy cutting, and you've seen me cut flowers out of pattern paper and circles out of pattern paper and, you know, all sorts of things. And I thought this pattern paper with all these fun icons was just perfect for doing some fussy cutting. So, of course, I just had to. So there's our little candelabra. And then this little heart, I actually added a couple pieces of foam tape behind here. So give it a little bit of dimension. This is the first piece of dimension we've added to the page. And we're going to kind of overlap onto the other frame and a bit onto the candelabra, just like that. So we're creating different heights, different levels. And we are going to also be adding some of the stickers from the sticker sheet. Now you can tell that I've used it before because I did a layout last week with this. And you might look at this and say, I don't know how you are going to accomplish this because that looks a lot like Halloween, but you will see. First, we need to put a title on here. And so I've got a piece of the paprika paper, which is the same as this dark color and the dark in the frame around here. And so I wanted to add another little piece of the dark up here on this part of the layout so that it kind of carries from one spot to another. And so I'm going to do some heat embossing on that. And for this, I need to take my anti-static pouch, which is just a little fabric pouch filled with a starchy powder, and just rub that on my cardstock and remove any little excess. And that takes away the staticiness of our paper because embossing powder is basically just little granules of plastic. And plastic, as you know, sticks to everything. You know, you try to take the backing off your foam tape and it sticks to you. You try to take, you know, even the backing off of this, and it's got like a plasticky film on it so it doesn't stick to the glue, and it sticks to all your hands. And, you know, plastic is staticky, so you want to remove as much static as you can before you start. And I'm going to be stamping actually with the White Daisy pigment ink to do my heat embossing, and at least I'm going to try. Sometimes it's not the most successful thing for me, but I'm going to be using a new alphabet from the new core catalog, and it's called the Havana Alphabet, and I think it's a really pretty stylized alphabet stamp set, and I thought it was kind of nice and light and a little bit fun, and it would work well with this style of layout. So I'm going to be stamping the word sweet with an exclamation mark because, you know, cotton candy is basically just sugar. So it's sweet, and plus, isn't he sweet too? And she's pretty sweet as herself. So I've got the word sweet, but of course I only have one E, so I'm going to have to stamp and then restamp. So I've got my White Daisy ink here. I'm also going to be using my white embossing powder. Now I could use just Versamark ink for this, but it almost gives a crisper white when you use the white ink along with the white embossing powder. I've got my scrap paper under here to gather out my embossing powder as I apply it. And so I'm just going to ink this up and hopefully get it centered on my piece like so. Give it a squish. And I had already seasoned my stamp. So that's always important if you have a brand new stamp. And then I'm just going to sprinkle my embossing powder on there like that. Now you're probably saying, but what about the other E? I find quite often that it's easier to get the embossing powder on there and then stamp the second one. I don't know why that is, but I just do it that way. In fact, I heat set the embossing powder before I continue on. So I'm going to pick this up. You would probably want to use, you know, tweezers or something for this process, but I'm just going to go ahead. I've got my heat tool. I always like to keep my paper up off my work surface when I'm heat embossing. That way the warm air will swirl around the paper, and it helps to actually heat everything up a little quicker. And also, it doesn't affect my tabletop in any way if I do it this way, right? If, you know, the finish on my table or any of my mats or things are affected by heat, then by keeping it away, I'm saving myself some heartache, right? And then we're just going to turn it around. You always want to make sure you aim your heat tool away from your hand, especially if you're not using tweezers or something to hold it, so that, because, you know, it does get warm. And then you'll see that the embossing powder changes from dull and dry looking to a nice shiny white. Isn't that gorgeous? And it'll catch the light. And because it's heat embossed, there's a bit of a raised texture on there. So lovely. Now, the only thing is, because we've now heat up our paper, we're going to actually give it a moment to dry. Not dry, to cool off. Because if I've sprinkled my embossing powder, you know, stamped and sprinkled right away, then the actual residual heat in the paper would probably start sticking little bits of embossing powder where I don't want them. So we're going to step away from that for a second, and I'm going to bring in something else. Now, even though this is a Halloween themed paper pack, I'm going to mix in some embellishments from another collection, and this is the Flower Shop embellishments, and you get some paperboard, wood grain items, you get some sapphire paperboard, you get some white acrylics and some pink acrylics. And so I pulled out a few of the white acrylic pieces, let me just grab them here, that I thought might look nice on our layout. So I have a couple of little arrow clusters, I've got this little bracket, and I've got this little circle that says, love this. And I thought those might be nice additions to this layout. The one thing you want to do is always use some glue dots with these. It just makes things quick and easy. So I've got my micro glue dots here. And I actually am getting close to the end of the roll. Woohoo! And I was thinking, let's kind of play with them a little bit. I was thinking maybe this little bracket might be nice over here on the side, or over here, or over here. Actually, maybe over here. And then the love this, I was thinking maybe right sort of in between, so that the line, so the top part is kind of the stripey and the bottom part is kind of the black and white. I'll move it in a little bit. And then these arrows, I'm thinking maybe along here, and the jury is out on the last one, but let's go ahead and add these on there. It just adds a little bit of shine because it's a different medium, I guess, from everything else, you know, the matte paper and things. And it's a little bit of a shiny surface and, you know, just something different. Sometimes you just need something a little bit different to zhuzh something up. So let's add those on there. I always find the more variety in embellishments that you use, it kind of has a nicer look. If every embellishment on your page is exactly the same, then it's not as much variety. You know the old saying, variety is the spice of life? I think it goes with embellishments too, right? Okay, so let's then, because I kind of like how this arrow is pointing towards the word cotton candy, right? It just kind of says it all right there. So let's grab a couple more little glue dots there. Pop that down. And we're going to point towards our cotton candy. Just like that. Very nice. Lovely. Okay, so now we can, I'm going to set this aside for now. In case I change my mind, it's still there. We're going to come back and we're going to do this second letter E. So I'm actually going to take it off of here and just put it on a little one. And normally I don't do it this way. I usually push it down to pick it up, but it's all inky. So I gave my lid of my ink pad a little of an E. A little E. So now this one, I'm going to have to be careful that I try to line it up. So I'm going to scooch this closer to my head and hopefully not stick my head in the way of the camera. And there we go. We've stamped our E. We can get rid of this. We can add our embossing powder just on that little E. One time I did this and I went back and I did a letter that I hadn't done before, you know, because I had to repeat. And then I went and stuck my thing on my project, completely forgetting that I hadn't actually heat set that letter. And afterwards I realized, because it was coming off, right? Eventually the ink dries out and the powder just sort of falls off. All right. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever done that in the history of heat embossing, forgotten to heat set it. So here we go. We're just going to do that little E. And of course our heat tool is actually still pretty warm from when we were doing this before. I like this Ranger heated tool that we offer because it is actually really quiet. You know, when you compare it to other heat tools, my goodness, so quiet. So there's our pretty little word sweet. And I'm going to go ahead and dovetail the ends. So I'm just going to snip in the center like that. And then I'm going to come from the corner to the top of my snip. And then from this corner to the top of my snip. And then move to the other side. Give it a snip in the center. And then to repeat the same process over again. I always find that to be the best way to get a nice even dovetail. There we go. Sweet. So sweet. And I think maybe I want to add some foam behind this and pop this title up because we haven't really popped up much. So again, I'm still using the the back of my, or the inside of my acetate and foams from the shaker cards to add foam. Completely forgot to order some when I put in my flash sale order, but that's okay. I can use this up. I just don't have any thin foam tape. Oh my goodness, I miss having the thin foam tape because you can do so much dimension, you know, using thick and thin and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn my layout because it's so far away from me that I can't see. Make sure I turn my title. And what I want to do is I want to kind of have it centered a little bit on that zip strip. Like that. And it's okay that I'm covering up part of my picture, but I wanted to have that edge of the pattern paper still showing. So from where I'm sitting over here, it's a little bit hard to see how that lines up. Sweet! Isn't that so fun? Okay, I'm going to move this stamp block out of the way because I'm going to, for sure, stick my elbow in it. I can guarantee it. So now we're bringing in our sticker sheet. And I saw this one little bottle here, and it says fairy dust. And I thought, you know what? Cotton candy is a bit like fairy dust, right? It's all just sugar. So I thought maybe I would use that as a little embellishment, just kind of off to the side like that. And then maybe I would also add these little sort of star sparkly bits on there too. So there's 1, 2, and then the third one up there like that. So that's our little fairy dust just kind of sparkling up out of there. And then there's all these gorgeous little hearts here and there. So for sure we can use some of those on our layout, right? There's also another candelabra, so if you don't like trimming out your own, you can always use the one that's there. There's little candies, which would be kind of fun because we're talking about how sweet this is. And there's all different ones here, there, and everywhere. So let's get a couple of these hearts here. Let's maybe put this one here. And maybe this one. I want a different size one. Oh, I'm going to go with the one that's right beside the one I just used. So there we go. And we're going to kind of come out of the box there. And then let's also add a couple hearts down at the bottom because we've got one little heart here. But let's add a couple more. There's one there. One there. We're going to come out of the box. And we're kind of heading up towards this love this piece that we have going on there. And I'm just thinking whether there's anything else on here I want. There's cute stars. There's the little candies. Yeah, maybe I'll add a couple candies. So we're going to stick a couple little candies down here on our sort of our little ledge that we're creating. And you know what? This is kind of a thing now, I think, because I did a little bit of a ledge on the other layout that I created. So I must have it in my brain that's, you know, that's the way to go. I got stuck in it, right? And then let's add another one maybe over here like so. Okay, that looks good. This little book with the heart too, I thought that was kind of cool, but I think we have enough going on there. And then I was up in the air. I didn't know what kind of little sparkly bits I wanted to add. I have my clear sparkles because I thought, you know, that goes with everything. Looks nice with the ballerina. I've got my melon dots, the circles, stars, and hearts. And then I've also got melon sequins. So I was kind of up in the air, but I think because we have a lot of embellishing going on already, I'm going to go with just a few little touches of the clear sparkles. So let me grab my piercing tool, and because this just adds that little hint of shine, just a little something, right? It's not too over the top. Oops. And I like to use the point of my piercing tool to pick up my little sparkles and gems and things, because it just makes it easier for my fingers. So let's see, we'll add a little sparkle here amongst the little hearts, maybe another one up here like that, and maybe one more, so it looks like a little trail going there. And we'll add a couple over here by our fairy dust where we have our little sparkles happening. Let's add one there, and then maybe one there as well. There we go. That's all we need, just little touches of that sparkle. All right, so there we have our layout. We've used a couple techniques. We used the 6-5-4, using 6, 5, and 4 to create a lovely grid pattern. We did some asymmetrical mirroring or translation, depending on how you look at it with with mathematical terms, because we're at school, thinking about our school days. Then we did some stenciling with that fun little heart stencil from the card front stencil pack. And we've layered up with some ballerina glitter paper. We did some heat embossing in white using the white daisy ink and the white embossing powder. Then we've added some of the acrylic pieces from the Flower Shop embellishment pack. We've added stickers from the Fabulous collection. And you can see, as well as the clear sparkles, you can see that we have created an entirely non-Halloween layout using the Halloween collection. How fun is that? Scrapbooking the everyday is always a fun way to go. And, as we've been talking about our memories of school and things, some of the memories that stick out are just the everyday things. What did we have in our lunch? What did, who was our favorite teacher? Things like that, the everyday moments of life. And so I think it's really fun to scrapbook those, I bought some cotton candy and my daughter was eating it. But it makes for fun memories in our books, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how that layout come together and a few little techniques on there. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you again soon. Toodaloo. Bye.